Hello and welcome back to a New Pace podcast and an opportunity once again to talk about different things relating to taking time to pause, act, create and empower. So today we have Carol Urry here to talk to us about what she does, and without further ado I just want to say hello to Carol and welcome you onto a New Pace podcast. So hello Carol.
Hi Lesley, it's lovely to see you, lovely to catch up again. We've not seen each other for a little while, so thank you for the opportunity to come on. It's great to chat with you.
Yeah, it is really good to catch up, and I think in some ways having a podcast is a really good opportunity for sort of reunions with people that you've maybe not seen for a long time. I know it's probably 2 years since I've seen you, and like we met a bit before then. So, and a chance to be able to talk about what you do. So, yeah. So how are you anyway? How are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm good actually. Yeah, been out, went out for a walk just before I came on to get ready for the podcast. Yeah, it's not a bad day, and I need to start getting my steps up. I'm normally an active person, but just lately doing lots of work at the computer, you know what it's like. You sit a lot, so I'm just trying to be a little bit more active, really, and dragging my
Yeah,
hobby out as well. So we could both be doing a bit more walking.
yeah. I'm with you on that because there are days when I like would get loads of steps in, walking everywhere, and then other times when I have to be really, really mindful of it and put a lot of effort in just to walk around the block. So yeah, it's good to see that you've been out and about already. So
Yeah.
so Carol, how would you introduce yourself generally, and like just what you do and how you might help people?
I would probably call myself an alcohol control coach, and to just help people to get a handle on their habitual drinking. And that habitual drinking can be anything from a Friday night having too many just one day a week. It can be a whole weekend drinking and feeling rubbish Monday morning. It can be habitual glass of wine every day of the week to chill out from work. So it's usually something that people are thinking in the back of their mind, you know what, I need to get a handle on this. I'm doing this too much. And then often what happens is they probably try and cut back, but then they think, oh, sorry, I'm just going to have a drink because I've had a stressful day. And that's the position I was in, really. And I think it gets to a point some way along, no matter how long you've been drinking, it's an addictive substance, alcohol. And I'm not here to demonize alcohol in any way because we've all got choices, but it is an addictive substance. And if we drink it for long enough, we can become reliant on it. And yeah, so really, people come to me that probably tried to maybe give up or cut back and finding it a bit difficult, and using a coach who's been there, got the t-shirt, is quite helpful because I can give lots of people, lots of strategies and tips and techniques, and just dig a bit deeper as to find out often why they're drinking, because it's not always stress. It can be some trauma or something deep in their childhood that they want to numb out of and don't want to deal with. So there's a whole spectrum of lots of different people that come to me, normally around alcohol. It can
Yeah.
move off into different other things, sugar and, you know, not feeling good about themselves and mental health issues, anxieties. Yeah, so it starts off with alcohol, but often it moves into other areas.
Yeah, and you said about how sometimes you know that those habits that people have, and that recognition that that idea that somebody might be thinking, oh, maybe I'm doing this, but part of me is feeling that I don't want to be doing this anymore, but I'm not sure how to break this habit or to shift it towards something
Mm.
else. And is that something that you like? How would somebody know necessarily that they're at that point? I'm just curious about like what sort of conversations you might have had, or like how might somebody, what might be going on in someone's mind to be thinking, this is too much, or I've done this too long and I want to stop, or want to change my habit?
Usually it starts interfering with their life, so they might be starting getting up feeling really hungover and anxiety, because alcohol really exacerbates anxiety the following day. And it might be interfering with their work productivity. It could be interfering with their relationships. Maybe a partner's mentioned that they're drinking too much and they get really annoyed and ratty, but deep down they know. Maybe their children say, your breath smells, or you know you're acting funny, or when you're drunk and the kids don't want to come. I always remember my mentor saying, a little boy who was like 4 years old, she wanted him to come and sit on her knee, and he said, "No, mummy, your breath smells and your teeth are purple," and didn't want anything to do with her. Or it could be, in my instance, it was my young son who was 19, got stranded in Birmingham New Street. He missed his last train. It's a bank holiday, and I'd been drinking most of the weekend and couldn't go and get him. And I think that was the catalyst for me to think, oh, just hang on a minute. So I think people often find that it's interfering in some part. They can justify it for quite a long time. I justified it for quite a long time, because you can see other drinkers, especially heavy drinkers like I was, tend to hang around with other heavy drinkers.
Yeah.
So when you're measuring yourself and that benchmark is there, it's often, well, I'm not that bad. And when
Yeah.
you say to people, do you think I'm drinking too much? Or it comes up in conversation, they go, oh, you're not that bad. Because really, they don't want to admit that they're probably drinking too much as well. So it's like this, sort of, I don't know.
Like you might maintain the habits because you're
Yeah, it's
surrounding
helping
yourself.
bolster up your drinking and giving you an excuse really to just ignore that drinking habit that you've got. And if you're around people that drink just as much as you, then you're in that. It's a big bonding thing as well. Drinking, our culture in the
Yeah.
UK, it's a massive thing. There's young people coming through now that probably aren't getting into the drinking scene, but certainly when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, drinking was a very big social thing. If you went into
Yeah.
the pub with your mates and asked for a lemonade, you'd get ribbed, and you still get ribbed now. Things are on the turn and changing, but to
Yeah.
be called out because you're not drinking. Plus, there's a lot of shame around it as well, and there's not many places to go. There are now, because it's obviously on social media. There's a lot of people like myself coaching around alcohol. So, but coaching seems a last resort, which is interesting, because out in the States, everybody's got a coach,
Yeah.
for their careers, their family, their relationships, their lifestyle. Whereas in the UK, it's still a little bit like, oh no, I can manage this on my own. Whereas you
Mm.
can get there, 10 times, 50 times, 100 times quicker if you've got
Yeah.
someone that's helping you with your goal setting.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say the same, being a therapist, I'd say the same with that often people might come to a therapist when they're at a point when they feel that they've tried everything independently. And
Mm.
like we Brits do find it hard to ask for help sometimes, and I think that that culture. And I was really struck by like you weaving in different things here, some things about your own personal experiences and some things about, you know, those those things that kind of keep people in those habits. And I'm curious really about maybe how people would maybe make that shift from it's actually a really helpful thing for me. I like this community, I like the social element, but then actually it's too much. So we led into this a little bit. So how is there something about, or are there certain challenges that people have if you're going out to the pub, for instance, and you're meeting friends and you're in that social situation and you're in that kind of have that identity of maybe being a drinker, or how does somebody like be able to then go, it's affecting their lifestyle, but then maybe there's something keeping them there. So, and you said about your son, and I think that feels really compelling. That there's something really important about your son. Is there more that you can say on that?
Yeah, my son's on the autistic spectrum. He's very high functioning. He's got Asperger's syndrome. It's not called that anymore. And he's
Yeah,
got ADHD. And this was his first ever trip on his own.
yeah,
Um, and I was a bit nervous about it, but there was something going on at the NEC. He'd got a friend who he knew online for several years. Again, that's always a worry from a parent's perspective. But I'm thinking, he's 19, Carol, get a grip. He's got to have a life. There's people at 19 that are at university, even with the challenge of, being on the autistic spectrum. So get a grip. So we organised it, and he was staying over at this friend's house. So off he went, and like I said, because it was bank holiday, there was works on the line. Never even thought about that. So that's normally rail network, isn't it? They usually do something, but being a drinker, bank holiday is a great opportunity to just meet everybody down the pub at lunchtime because you've not got work for like 3 days. So normally we
yeah.
would go out on a Friday night, and then normally we would drink at home on a Saturday, but we'd probably meet out for lunch and then start drinking earlier in the day. And once you've had one or two, you just think, it affects your decision making, which is part of
Mm,
your prefrontal cortex. So it's really hard to say I'll just have one, and especially when you've got peer pressure. So we were out, and then we came home, and we'd be opening a bottle of wine with dinner. So when that phone call came, it was probably about 8:30 at night, because the train stopped early, and then there were buses that were put on. He didn't have a clue where to go, what to do. He didn't ask. He was a bit of a
yeah,
panic. He wasn't upset, but him being on the other end of the phone, I just felt completely helpless. I wasn't drunk. I mean, my tolerance was quite high. I probably maybe had, quite a bit to drink during the daytime. But I had a sensible conversation with him and just said, look, darling, I can't come and pick you up. You need to give your dad a call. Me and his dad are divorced now. We've been separated for probably 15 years or more. So he rang his dad and his wife went and picked him up, and they've got friends in Birmingham, so I understood that they stayed over in the friend's flat. That again, there was a lot of shame around that because I'm his mum and I couldn't get in the car. Nathan knows I hate night driving, so
mm,
driving, it would have been dark, probably not getting there, but coming back, and I'm not a great night driver. So yeah, there was some shame around that, a lot of shame around it actually, and
mm,
me just thinking, Carol, you've really got to get a grip and really got to sort this out. And for some people, that is a catalyst. For other people, it can be a rock bottom thing. But you were saying about going out.
yeah,
If people want to take a break and have got a social occasion coming up, or they just, like to get down the pub on a Friday or over the weekend, there's a few things you can do. You really need to plan ahead, and I think planning is really, really important. It's really great to have a friend, an accountability pal, somebody that you can say, look, don't let me drink tonight. I'm not drinking tonight. I just want to take some time out. And they will really help you. Or even if they're on the end of the phone or a text, if you get, you really don't want to drink and you get tempted, again, through peer pressure, you not drinking is like holding a mirror up to somebody else because they're thinking, oh,
mm,
there's something wrong with me. They're not drinking. They drink the same as I do normally. There's something going on here. And they think, oh, maybe do I drink too much? So you're sort of switching it around. But if
yeah,
you plan, if you're going somewhere where you don't normally go, have a look to see if there's alcohol-free drinks around. This absolutely saved my life. People don't know that you're not drinking, especially if you get there first and order your
mm,
drink. And even if it's a G&T, it can be, a alcohol-free gin with a mixer with a straw in a nice glass. Same again with obviously beers and lagers. They look, you can't tell the difference. Or if you just don't want to go down that road, and people say, why aren't you drinking? You can just say things like, I'm just taking a break, or I've been drinking too much lately, or I've got to be up early in the morning. You can just, whatever. It's nobody's business but
Yeah.
yours. And it's being quite firm and drawing the line in the sand and saying, right, this is going to happen. And I think the more that you do that, the more confident you become in yourself and your choices.
Yeah.
And if you do decide you want to drink, have a glass of wine or a beer or whatever later on in the evening, it's good to start with non-alcoholic, alternatives to alcohol or soft drinks, and then say, okay, well, at 9 o'clock, I'm going to allow myself a glass of wine or a beer. It's really it's your choice
Yeah.
what you do, but you can socialise. My daughter got married, and I was probably 2 years alcohol free at that point. I'm nearly, crumbs, yeah, 6 years nearly alcohol free now. I think
Yeah.
it was a couple of years, and I just made sure there was lots of alternatives for me, so it's possible.
Yeah. And that kind of that balance, what I'm hearing is that the strategy to to enjoy a night out where you would might have automatically drank
Mm,
previously, whereas this decision that you've made to reduce alcohol or stop drinking alcohol because of that why, your own personal why, sounds really compelling. Sounds like it's kind of maybe almost like that light bulb moment or
mm,
something that was maybe making that decision, and then having that strength of the why with that strategy. Is that
yeah.
yeah, and that maybe makes me think about, like, while you were talking, I was thinking, hang on, people shouldn't have to justify their actions. However, and that's so, which is true, isn't it? However, actually, we often have to do something to get past that point when you may be in that middle ground where you could be very easily like tempted to have a drink and actually, oh, go on then, just one word might not harm you and sort of thing, those kind of conversations, go on then, I'll just have one. But actually knowing yourself and being able to go, actually, what I like the taste of beer, for instance, so I'm gonna have an alcohol free beer, or taste of gin or something, or those alcohol free cocktails. Whereas having that compelling decision and that reason why, and maybe next morning wanting to get up early to go and do something, that feels like those two things combined. So
Yeah.
that reason and that
Mm,
strategy and that
yeah.
the impact afterwards. Yeah.
Strategy and planning is so, so, so important, because if you go out the door for a social evening thinking, oh, I'm not sure whether I'm going to drink or not, I'd like not to, I have got to get up early in the morning, or maybe whatever reason. If you wait until you walk through the door, you can guarantee 99.9% you will drink,
Mm.
because you just fall into your natural patterns. Because when you've been a drinker for a while, your brain gets used to it, loves habitual ways. Our brain just
Yeah.
likes to keep us safe, so it loves things that we do all the time. So if every time you go in the pub, you have a drink, your subconscious is already decided that you're drinking. And
Yeah.
it's just the way neuroscience works and just the way your brain works. And if you've been a real heavy drinker, our subconscious can go into a bit of a panic mode, because if it thinks it's not going to get that drink, it thinks it needs it for survival. And that is often where we get stuck, and we get on that repeat, rinse and repeat cycle of drinking, and why it's so hard to break that cycle, because you've
Mm.
rewired subconsciously your brain unintentionally, that when you're in that situation, it is expecting that drink. It's like when
Yeah.
I used to come home from work, I didn't used to think about drinking at all in the daytime. It wouldn't enter my head. But as soon as I got in my car, there it was, that thought: ping, beer in the fridge, wine in the cupboard. And it was just a habitual thing. And just driving all the way home from, it was a really stressful job that I had. and that was my way of de-stressing, rather
Yeah.
than going out for a walk or rather than doing something else, which I can teach other people. There's lots of different ways you can entertain yourself over those initial periods when you're sort of withdrawing and wanting to come away from alcohol. It's just
Mm,
finding other alternatives. But yeah, your brain
yeah.
is very, very powerful. It loves habits. It loves to do the same thing because it feels safe. Anything out of the ordinary, whoa, just a minute. Don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it would see like things that are familiar as being safe. So anything
Mm,
new, whether
yeah,
it's whether you've, cognitively, consciously decided that you don't want to drink, your unconscious mind is like, no, 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 I'm going for the familiar. I'm
yeah,
going for what's familiar to me,
yeah,
sort of thing. Yeah.
exactly.
So, I mean, I would say that, I mean, I used, when I was growing up, I used to drink loads and I was in that sort of realm where it would just be a natural thing. And I think at the time we had, we had those alcohol pops that were, al Coke or lemonade pretending to be alcohol. Now it's more like alcohol pretending to be like being a soft drink. A soft drink is the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
So, and now I would say that there's times when I sort of don't really drink, I don't really drink midweek. If I go out somewhere, I'll drink. And there's often times where I sort of just think, oh, I literally drank too much then. And I sort of think, oh, I don't really want to be drinking. But I wouldn't necessarily see myself as being having an alcohol problem or anything like that. I think it's just maybe over time I'm just thinking my body doesn't agree with drinking alcohol so much. However, once I sort of get, I may be part of, there's probably loads of people like me that might not drink like loads, but then they go out with a friend and then suddenly they're drinking, and actually then the next day they might be more hungover. Like if I have a hangover now, it's so much worse than like when I was in my 20s by far. So actually, what would you sort of, do you have tips for someone that's maybe might not see themselves as a big drinker, but actually wanting to like maybe cut down a little bit, sort of thing?
yeah, yeah. I would say
'Cause I
start
wouldn't
your
see myself as needing to stop as such. That might be another question.
yeah. I think the important thing is to start your night out with a non-alcoholic drink.
Okay.
Because, as I said, it completely messes up your executive functioning part of your brain. So if you go out and have an alcoholic drink straight away, you can guarantee if somebody says, "Oh, have another one," you're just going to give in because that's the nature of how it affects our brains. It just does that. It has a massive effect on all different parts of our brains. And obviously, you get that dopamine hit, which is an artificial dopamine hit. So you get that buzz,
Mm.
and that's what mainly people drink for. They like that buzz. But once you've had that buzz happen, which happens probably 20 minutes, half an hour, and it wears off, and then often we're trying to chase that buzz again, but you never get it back
Yeah.
because and the dopamine hit is really an artificial dopamine hit. It's not a proper dopamine hit is something like walking out in nature, reading a good book, watching a good film, being with a loved one. That's a natural dopamine hit, whereas alcohol is an artificial stimulation, really. And over time, alcohol actually deadens the dopamine receptors, so you have to have more to have that buzz.
Yeah.
So it's just a vicious cycle, and your tolerance goes up, which it did with me. I mean, towards the end, I was probably drinking at least a bottle and a half of wine, and then a couple of heavy duty 5% beers before the wine started. So, yeah, it just increases. But if you start with a non alcoholic drink, you're not affecting your decision making straight away. Get a low ABV, have a look at what
Mm.
they're selling, so get something that's low in volume with where alcohol's concerned. So if you're a beer drinker, don't go for the big 5% ones. Just go for something less, or drink
Mm.
half a pint, or have a spritzer, or have a lager shandy or something, and water it down. Same with wine. You can spritz wine too. So yeah, so you're not completely cutting out the alcohol, but you're being sensible. And the next morning it's so much better because alcohol just it messes with your REM sleep. You probably get maybe 1 or 2 REM cycles in instead of your 5 or 6 REM cycles. When you drink alcohol, it dumps a load of cortisol into your system to counteract the toxicity of the alcohol. So the cortisol being, the stress hormone, that's why you get the hangover, and extra
Ah,
anxiety. So it's the hormone disruptor. So it really disrupts your hormones, especially menopausal women, hot flushes as soon as you drink, because it's a vasodilator. It opens
right.
your veins, your arteries open up, your veins open up to get that flush. So yeah, there's a lot to say that, yeah, if you want to drink, but do it moderately or mindfully. Mindful drinking is really a good way of looking at things, and you can get books on this. You can start thinking about, first of all, why do you want that drink? Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to stress. I want to de-stress. Like with me, whereas I just want to de-stress. I just don't want to think about work. I just want to numb out. What I didn't realise, and that's why it's important to educate yourself, because there's lots of books and podcasts and communities out there, is that it was actually adding to my stress because of the
Right.
cortisol dumping. And I think once I understood that, I thought, well, that's crazy. I'm really stressed out, but I'm just making myself even more stressed out. And I'm not sleeping well, which is making me really grumpy in the morning. It's making me fatigued, which is a knock-on effect on my busy day at work, which is making me even more stressed and tired. And then I'm eating carbohydrates at night. When that's the big thing, isn't it? Going
Yeah.
to the cupboard and eating whatever because you just get that appetite. So it's like a vicious circle. So if you can plan and get someone accountable, if you don't trust yourself, that's going out with you, and have someone you trust and have a quiet word, and counteract those, oh, go on, just have one
Yeah.
conversation, then yeah, I think it's just, yeah, having that, like you said, that strategy really.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. And I was like, that cycle that people would get into, and that do I, don't I, and being able to make something that feels a bit more of an of an empowering decision, rather than something just happening automatically. And I was really struck by the fact that you were saying about, all these benefits, and like how actually you can sleep so much better, and like especially when you were talking about sort of like the link with hormones. And how would you how would you describe the sort of positive impact of having, not drinking? What would be maybe your top three be?
Oh, let's
You don't need
see.
to stick to three, just
I think clarity. I think not having that foggy head. And I think waking up in the morning knowing that you've had a really good sleep. Like
yeah.
I used to wake up, it's if you stop drinking about 10, 11 o'clock at night, you can guarantee that you will wake up between 3 and 4 o'clock. And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
you catastrophize everything in your head, don't you, at those times anyway? And then you can't get back to sleep, and then you're stressed out because you know you've got work. So the sleep, it doesn't happen, or for some people, within a week. It usually takes about 72 hours for alcohol to leave your system by the time your liver's processed it and you've eliminated it. And normally after those 3 days, within a week, some people find their sleep improved. Some people, it takes weeks. Some people, it can take, several months. Everybody's so different. And it all depends on, how much alcohol really you ingested.
Yeah.
So sleep is the definite one. Energy levels, you don't get that fatigue and that tiredness, really. I mean, alcohol is sugar too, so it's quite calorific. There's about 650
Yeah.
calories, I think, in a bottle of wine. So again, when you've got that sugar on board, you get the sugar crashes. Plus, if you're eating loads of carbs, like chips, or you get a takeout, you carb loading as well, which again is sugars. So that makes you feel really lethargic the following day and for several days afterwards, actually. So lots more energy in the morning and clarity. You don't have that fogginess because you've not got the fatigue, because you slept well and you've probably not carb loaded. So you have a lot of clarity, decision making, especially at work, around
Yeah.
work. A lot of people that come to me that have got really high flying careers that need to be on the ball. Thankfully, a lot of the afternoon now entertaining clients and things and
Mm.
drinking. There's not a lot of that around now, but people are realizing it is having an impact on their job, relationships. For me, my husband, not my first husband, those Clive, he
Yeah,
didn't really
husband now.
drink a lot when I met him. He only probably used to go out on a Friday night with the lads and have a couple of pints, and then on a Saturday he used to get a bottle of wine and he would have half of it on Saturday and half of it on Sunday. No, in fact, no, we used to drink the whole thing actually on Saturday. Didn't used to drink Sunday when I met him. So yeah, that's seen as binging because anything sort of above 3 units in one go is sort of seen as a binge. Um, and then when he met me, oh my goodness, his drinking accelerated because I was going through a divorce as well, and I had to find a full-time job, find my own place because I left the family home, and I got two children, so they were between me and their dad. My drinking really ramped up big time. And because I was drinking and it was there, I think Clive was having a glass and it just it just escalated. So life without alcohol is your skin's much clearer. Again, it's a dehydrator, so you get
Yeah.
dehydrated with alcohol. So um, your body wants to hold on to every bit of water that you give it. So you find that you get quite puffy around your
Mm.
face and puffy. Obviously you can gain weight because of the calorie content of alcohol. And I found once I stopped drinking, and I always advise my clients to, is take a photograph on the first day because within a week, once the alcohol's been processed and your body is being fed normal fluids like water,
Yeah.
or tea, coffee, whatever. I mean, obviously caffeine dehydrates, but if you're drinking well, your homeostasis, that balance that your body likes to be in, sorts itself out. The
Mm.
chemical side from toxicity takes a while to, like, the natural melatonin to come back after drinking. It suppresses so many chemicals in your body.
Mm.
It takes months and months and months for it to actually get to where the natural homeostasis. So
Yeah.
yeah, we don't realise how much it affects us.
Mm.
Our bodies. It's very toxic. But again, you've got to go to people's choices. And if people
Yeah.
like my brother is a heavy drinker. We've had a few cousins and we have all our uncles because of the mining culture in the village. They were all big beer drinkers because the social
Yeah.
down at the working men's club was where everything happened. Everybody met there. My dad used to have 3 or 4 pints in the afternoon and then he'd go out again in the evening and have probably 5 or 6 pints. Because it's a class 1 carcinogen and it's directly linked with 7 different cancers, a lot of my family have died of bowel cancer, the male side. Now my
Yes.
cousins are being affected. I've had 2 cousins die. And I just said to my brother, I don't want to lecture you because I'm not a lecturing person, but I was like, just take note and just
Yeah.
cut back and just. But it says that I enjoy it because I like it. It's fun when I go out, but then is poisoning yourself to that extent fun? If
Yeah.
if an alien, somebody said to me, if an alien dropped in your garden and you were sat there
Yeah.
having a glass of wine and they were saying, "Oh, what are you drinking?" And you're saying, "Oh, well, I'm actually drinking a class 1 carcinogen that's going to
Yeah.
interrupt my sleep. That's probably going to make me feel really nauseous in the morning, really fatigued, and really cranky. But I enjoy it." The alien would be thinking, "What? You're
Yeah.
doing what to yourself?"
Yeah.
And
Doesn't
I
make
thought, what do
sense.
you think about it? Like,
So when it's been packaged in such a way that it's acceptable as a drug, and you could say the same, like you were saying about caffeine and high levels of coffee, and compared to illegal drugs, which would be perceived in like such a different way. But I'm just like really struck by like just hearing about all your losses, Carol, and just want to acknowledge that, because that's been really hard for you sort of over time, and
Yeah.
just like thanks for sharing that, because I think it touched me when you said about like family members and hearing about you talking to your brother, and that actually it maybe strengthens that why for you to be able to sort
Mm.
of reach out. So yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And I think there's something really important about having that honesty and being able to really, but it really strikes me just how clear you are about those things, because actually
Yeah.
you wanting to help people as well. So
Definitely. And I think, Lesley, it's all about awareness and choice. And I
yeah,
think there's maybe not so much now, but when people are drinking and not realizing what it's actually doing to their body, and I think if people are educated around it, then they've got an informed choice. They know what it's doing to them and it's their choice. Like my brother says, I enjoy drinking, Carol. And I said, fine. I just want you to be aware. And that is
yeah,
what I do as a coach, and that is what I tend to do on my social media, is make people aware. I'm not, like I said, demonizing drink. I'm not saying stop drinking, you shouldn't be drinking. What I'm saying is, here are the facts, here is how it affects you. You make an informed choice on whether you want to carry on drinking or not. I've got friends that are alcohol control coaches or alcohol free coaches, and even do dabble into moderation as an experimentation to see. Because, like I said about mindful drinking,
yeah,
if you don't drink, say for one day, and you just don't have any effect, because blood alcohol levels can hang around for a long time. That's why if you're
mm,
heavy drinking, you can be breathalyzed the following morning and still be over. So if you
yeah,
say you're a weekend drinker and you don't drink Monday to Friday, but on a Saturday you have a glass of wine or you have a pint of beer or whatever your tipple is, then do it mindfully. Find it before you pour that drink. What is it that's making you pour that drink? It's generally a habit,
yeah,
because you always do it on a Saturday night. But just think, well, why am I doing it? Do I really want it? How's it going to make me feel? And really think about it. And if you decide, you know what, I am going to have that drink, then monitor how it makes you feel. Monitor how you feel before you have the drink. Think to yourself, you can even journal down. I get my clients to actually, if they're still drinking when they come to me, journal. How does it make you feel after the first couple of sips? How does it make you feel after you've had the whole drink? Do you want another one? Would you normally have another one? How does that make you feel? And some people will drink the whole bottle of wine and then they'll journal the following day on how they feel. And I think being mindful of how it actually makes you feel, makes you behave, because we
yeah,
completely lose our inhibitions often. I mean, I hate to think of the things that I got up to lots of things after I've been drinking, like lots of people do.
yeah,
And people use it for Dutch courage, don't they? Because they want to be, I mean, I was quite obnoxious. I'm the most laid back, chilled out person you could meet. But on
yeah,
certain alcoholic drinks would turn me into this quite obnoxious, argumentative person, which is just not me. It didn't happen that often, but there was, yeah, it used to, and sometimes I couldn't remember walking home. Because you do get a blackout. Because blackouts, you can still be walking, talking like I am now, but have a blackout. There's different types of blackouts. There's a blackout when bang, you're gone and you don't remember anything. But because it affects your memory. If you think of a cassette tape, it just blanks it
mm,
completely. You just can't remember, and that's just the effects again in your
yeah.
brain on your yeah.
Yeah, and then and then the next day, kind of wondering what on earth happened, and just like you saying, those changes to personality. Like I wouldn't imagine that from you at all. But that makes me think about just how the sense of the true self, and how much different things can influence us, and influences from the outside versus on the inside, and yeah, it's so like we often think that that's who we are forever, and that we might be like that regardless of what we're eating and drinking and what our habits are. However, all of these things can make such a big difference. Like at the start, you said about going for a walk and what that was like, and being able to instill these habits of getting your steps up and like making an active choice to do those things. Yeah. Um, you talk about kind of working with Christians and like your faith as well, and that balance of faith and neuroscience. So how would you say sort of Christianity comes into this?
I think if you're a practicing Christian, and I think that's important, I think there's a lot of people that would probably carry the Christian label, but maybe not go to church, not read the Bible, not be in a community of Bible believing other
Mm,
people.
yeah,
So I think I just want to say that there is a difference. Some people call themselves Christians because they've been brought up in a Christian country. I mean, we're massively multicultural now, but
yeah,
foundationally, there's that Christian faith. Me as a Christian, it's my lifestyle. It's how I live. I don't just go to church on a Sunday and then live a different life Monday through to Saturday. I embrace my faith completely. So, I read my Bible every morning, pray continually through the day. It's just a conversation. Um, you know, People think that Christianity is a religion, but religion is being bound by rules, laws, regulations. Christianity is actually a relationship with a living God. So for me, it's a relationship. So my prayers are like me talking to you. I can go for a walk and I can just have a conversation with God. And we're just having a conversation because when I invited him into my life, when I was, I recommit, I invited him into my life to live inside me and became born again, as the term is, when
yeah,
I was young. And then I recommitted my life again at a Billy Graham conference when I was 21. And
yeah,
my faith has been up and down. I had a whole decade where I still believed in God, but I completely just didn't go to church, didn't read any scripture or anything. And I think being a Christian and being a coach and the neuroscience bit, I've just finished a leadership academy actually at church to become a pastoral leader, again around
fantastic.
alcohol, because church is for broken people, Lesley. Church is not
Yeah,
for perfect people. People come to church because they want some healing as well, and there's some stuff going on, and there's a massive something called a quiet revival going on at the minute, and a lot of there's thousands and thousands and thousands of Gen Z flocking to church at the moment. So we're seeing a bit of a revival because people have tried the self help, they've tried the new age, they've tried, doing stuff themselves and found it just doesn't work because,
mm,
in my beliefs, we were put on this earth for a purpose. God created us to love us, and He loves us no matter what we've done wrong. You can be have committed the most heinous crime ever, but if you truly, say sorry and
yeah,
ask Jesus to come and change you, He will. So my coaching is it's Christian and non-Christian. I'm not one for ramming it down people's throats at all.
yeah,
That's not how I work, and that's not how most people work. Really, you should, as a Christian, a non-Christian person should see that you're a Christian through the way you're living your life, the way you speak,
mm,
the way you don't use language, you don't gossip. We're not perfect, and I'm certainly not perfect. But I think you shine that light. And with my clients that are non-Christians, they know there's something different about me and they often ask.
mm,
And that will give me an opportunity to share that, I believe in Jesus, in God, and He lives inside me. So because He lives inside me, I see my body as something precious that God's given to me that I need to
yeah,
look after. And I'm still struggling with that. because, yeah, I've given up alcohol, and a mind-altering substance as a Christian into my body is not probably the best thing, you know. But I'm still struggling with sugar. I have a real addiction to sugar, and since I gave up alcohol, and it's quite common,
Yeah.
people turn to something, an alternative, and I'm still struggling with that. Um, but it's something that I can do with God and walk along. There's lots of scripture in the Bible that can really help. I mean, around the mindset, my faith really helps me, because I've written a couple of scriptures here, because we
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about self-help and psychology,
Yeah.
but in Proverbs, I think I've written it down. I think it's 28 or 23, verse 7. It says, "As you think, so you are." So we talk
Right.
about, if you think you're no good, you're no good. You know this. So you're a an
Yeah.
art therapist
Yeah.
anyway, and we've done other stuff together, haven't we, around your mindset. Um, and it just, in Romans 12:2, it says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind."
Mm.
And then in 2 Corinthians 10:5, it says, "Take every thought captive." So there's a lot of, it's where psychology began, in my
Yeah.
opinion, in the Bible. If you trace anything back, it's often Proverbs is an excellent one. So if a
Mm.
client comes to me and they're not a Christian, I don't mention my faith at all. It often comes up in conversation. And to be fair, most people have got some spirituality.
Mm.
There's something there. They've got, I call it a God hole inside you, because God made us. We're our creation, and we've all got a hole there that we try and fill with a million and one other things in life.
Yeah.
But often when we achieve that, that hole's still there, and the only thing
Mm.
that can fill it, in my opinion, is God. But if I do get Christian people that come to me who are Christians, I've got a couple of clients at the moment, and we use prayer. We talk
Okay.
about how we're feeling, and I'm often, there's some mentorship in my coaching too. It's not, purely indirected coaching, because I'm an integrative coach as well.
Right.
It's more mentorship as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, it's got it. I can do either or. There's
Yeah.
there's no set way of my coaching at all.
Yeah. So it sounds like maybe somebody that is already a Christian, or that maybe like has some spiritual beliefs, might be kind of looking to external, look into God, or look into the universe, or look into something that's bigger than them to help them to seek that
Mm,
help.
yeah,
And then actually what you said about um it made me think about that, sort of philosophical things like I think therefore I am, and it's like that was your first verse that you said, and it's kind of, well, actually, depending on how you want to hear this, or depending on what sits well for you, you can hear it as a philosophical thing, or you can hear it as like a belief thing, and to do with like Jesus Christ, and to do with your religion. And there's people that will have different religious beliefs as
absolutely,
well,
yeah,
that might have maybe not necessarily the same North Star as such to kind of look at and to guide them, but then some similar sort of patterns where my sense is that you'd be quite curious about what it is that what they're interested in, and what they're seeking, sort of thing, from you, from that support.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not something I would ever, it doesn't matter who comes to me, whether they're from a different faith, have no faith, not sure about their faith. If they come to me and they are curious, then I can only give them my experience. I can't give them my experience from a Hindu perspective, a Muslim
No.
perspective, Jehovah's Witness perspective, a, you know, whatever perspective. I can only give them my perspective. But again, it's not lecturing. I mean, I've just given you a brief outline on what I believe and what the Bible
Yeah.
teaches. But God embraces everybody, and I know people see God in lots of different ways, and worshiping in lots of different ways. But all I can do is just give you, my take on my experiences and what I believe and have been brought up in, really. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and that sounds like that part's the mentoring really of like what I
yeah,
where I've been, what I'm like talking about your story and talking about your experiences. When I
yeah,
think of mentoring, I think about my like my health, for instance, is something that I might bring into things, or like things about my age or things about my own experiences. Whereas somebody might not have experienced that at all, but that's fine. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, what at the moment? So, what sort of things are you kind of excited about, or what brings you joy in your life?
What brings my joy? Nature brings me joy. My garden.
Mm,
I'm currently growing wonderful courgettes and cucumbers, tomatoes, potatoes, green beans.
nice.
I love seeing things from shooting up from little seeds and planting them out. Love my
Yeah,
roses. So anything, I've always been a massive nature lover, even from being small. I just love being out in nature. Um,
yeah,
Obviously, my experiences are church related because that's the community that I'm involved with. It doesn't mean to say that I have non-church friends because I do. I have
yeah,
people that I go and have coffee with that don't have any faith, and that's absolutely fine. But I've mentioned my leadership academy, so I've just finished a
yeah.
year-long leadership academy, and I belong to a very large church, which is about 1,700 people. We
Wow.
have two
Yeah.
services, 9 and 11. It's called Kingsgate Community Church
Mm,
in Peterborough. And they've got a pastoral team, which I'm part of. And the whole point of me doing the Leadership Academy was to help run something called Celebrate Recovery. Celebrate Recovery is you've obviously heard of AA, the 12 steps.
yeah.
Well, the 12 steps, and they've got 8 principles, and the principles are actually, their foundations are in the Bible, in the Beatitudes.
Mm,
So we bring the principles into Celebrate Recovery in church, but it's not like your higher power. Our higher power is God, Jesus Christ. Um, we run I've just finished heading up a 12-week pilot course in our church. It's been running for many, many years. It
yeah.
initially came over from America, from Saddleback Church with Pastor Rick Warren. So we've had 9 wonderful ladies that we work through some books, and it's all on just looking at yourself and dealing with any challenges or issues. So it could
Mm,
be codependency, it could be anxiety, depression, addictions, divorce, anything, separation from a child, anything. And these ladies have just done 12 weeks with us working through the first 2 books, and
mm,
that's been amazing. And also a bereavement journey that's already a preloaded course. It's called the bereavement journey. If you look online for anybody who's listening that's been bereaved and
yeah.
is suffering with grief, whether it's been recently or even 20 years ago, whenever, and they're still dealing with those feelings,
Yeah.
look online, the bereavement journey. You can do it online, and there's courses locally. So in church, we've just ran not just, it was March, ran a 7-week video led course. So I did that as part of my leadership academy. So I'm very much involved in church because that's where I feel my calling is. I believe we're all put on this earth for a purpose, and it's a
Yeah.
God-given purpose in my eyes. And I've always been it's my vocation. I see it as my purpose, just caring for one another and helping one another and serving one another. And I've done that, Lesley, since I was probably 8 or 9 years old. I remember running errands for older people. I remember
Ah,
dusting for neighbours. I remember earning pocket money by throwing their coal into the garden coal hole thing.
yeah.
So, and then God, put me, I joined the army. I was in the Queen Alexandra's Royal Army Nursing Corps for 13 years as a senior healthcare assistant. I was out in the community. So I've always been in the care sector, and that's always where my heart's been. And the turbulent time I went when I was away from my Christian faith, like
Yeah.
I said, God was always, he's always had his hand on me, no matter where we go, he's there. But I went through that turbulent time of separating from my husband, getting divorced, having to find a job, drinking too much, and really quite rocky time for me. And then recently, only 3, 4 years ago, recently coming back to my faith and started to go back to church.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting time. But yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't swap it for the world. And God now uses that in my church family because, believe it or not, there's, as I said, it's a hospital church. There's a lot of broken people there. There's a lot of people that have got drug addictions, have got lots of addictions. The people that have got, lots of challenges that, and they come through the door, and the pastoral
Yeah.
team at church are there to support them in whatever
Mm.
way they need supporting. There's no judgment. That's the thing. People might have
Mm.
had experiences in other churches, but there's certainly no judgment from the community that I'm in. Everybody's different. We're all on that journey.
Yeah.
We will not be perfect until we're in eternity in heaven, So it's just a journey
Yeah.
I carry on, and I just feel blessed that I am in the place where God wants me to be, doing the thing that God intended me to do, and I've just got a real peace about that.
Yeah. It just sounds really lovely to hear, and actually, I'm just like seeing the joy in you, really talking about this, and I'm just imagining like little you doing all of those jobs, and it actually just making sense that you're just doing it because that's what you do, and that's because that's what naturally
Thank
feels
you.
right for you.
Yeah.
And one of the things that this idea of it feeling okay to share weaknesses and to share struggles and to have some help, and a lot of people struggle with that, don't they? And I think I've often said, it takes strength to say that you need some help. It does take strength to be able to go, oh, actually, there's this that's going on with me. It's bothering me. And
Yeah.
at the start, you talked about like like shame, that impact of like, people feel a lot of shame with alcohol and with
Mm,
lots of things really. And I
mm,
suppose it's maybe having that allowance to see that other people are struggling as well as you, because it's so easy to think, am I the problem? Is it just me? Is everybody
yeah.
else got all their ducks in a row and they're all kind of figured things out in life? But more often than not, when we have these open conversations, when we start to kind of question things and start to go, is there something wrong with me? What's going on in my life? What am I questioning? What's my purpose in life? And those kind of things, then the more people have those conversations, the more like connected people feel. Whereas silence, like to me, silence breeds shame. Like people not talking about things. Would you like think like that, or
Absolutely.
is there anything else?
No, absolutely. I think communication and being open with people, and like you're saying about, when I was drinking, this like obnoxious person come out. We all have a shadow side, don't we? We all have that side of us that we don't like and we can feel ashamed of. And yeah, I can get outbursts occasionally, and sometimes I really feel like, oh. But I think communication, being open with people,
Yeah,
somebody that you trust. I think when you hide it, push it down, ignore it, try and drink it away, try and whatever, whether it's shopping, gambling, whatever your thing is, trying to push it down and ignore it, it's going to bubble up because while ever that brokenness is inside, it needs fixing. And,
yeah,
we can fix it in lots of different ways. But I think the main thing is being open with someone and having a coach or even some counselling if there's some deep trauma there that you're carrying, something or maybe that you're not dealing with, or there's some bereavement or something, I think it's so important, because it's been scientifically proven that it actually affects us physically. So,
Mm,
we can manifest illnesses because of things that we keep hold of, like
yeah.
unforgiveness is a big one in church. If we carry a lot of unforgiveness around, it can manifest itself in lots of different ways. And there'll be lots of people out there that are not Christians, that are maybe into the New Age side of things, that know that does happen. It's so, it is. And I think getting it out in the open, because we see such perfection on social media, don't we? Not It is getting a little bit better. I saw a post about it today. Someone I follow, that was saying how hard life was at the minute. But we can see all these perfect people with their perfect lives and their wonderful businesses and everything, and we can question. But again, I never compare myself now. I just think there's no comparison, because there's so many alcohol coaches out there and people.
Yeah.
And I just think they're doing fantastic. They're doing fantastic. And yeah, maybe on social media it looks like they're doing fantastic, but when you actually speak to them, they've had no clients for a year. They're really struggling financially. Things are really hard. They're really depressed. I'm not saying this is everybody, but it's that portrayal of I'm okay, Joe. I'm doing great. But when you actually get to the nitty gritty, and I think that's where people need to be honest and open
Mm,
and say, I'm struggling, because that's when the
yeah.
healing starts, really.
Yeah. And actually, like, that's where maybe you might have people wanting to work with you because you might be more relatable to be saying, oh, actually,
Mm.
I'm struggling with this kind of sense of not sure what to do or struggling with like my own anxiety sort of thing. And somebody might be not able to talk about that because they might think, well, why would somebody come to me to have help for their stress levels if I'm like then saying, well, I've not got everything fixed. But I think being realistic, we all have these ups and downs in life and times when we might be struggling. So I think it's realistic to imagine that other people are going through something as well, but we don't always know, do we?
No, no, we don't. No, it's difficult. It's hard. Life's hard, Who said
Yeah,
life was going to be easy? It is hard, and it has its good, ups and downs. And just having someone, there might be somebody that's got nobody to talk to. That's where communities are really good. But I've just jumped in with a couple of coaches to get going something called the Previously Pickled Society.
ooh,
And we're just putting a bit of a fun spin
yeah,
on alcohol, and
yeah,
because it can be so serious sometimes, and
yeah, yeah,
we want to make it a bit light-hearted. For anybody that's listening that wants to maybe dip their toe in, what does it look like to take a break from alcohol, or even just cut back and moderate? The Previous Pickle Society, we're just starting out. Come and find us on Facebook, because again, it's light-hearted and it's just being open. And if you haven't got anybody to talk to, and you haven't got anybody that you trust, then I think being in a community, I'm talking about alcohol communities
mm,
here, full of people that want to cut back. Yeah, you're going to get different personalities in there, but it's somewhere where you can offload, somewhere where you can feel part of a tribe, somewhere where
yeah,
you can say, this is day one of trying no alcohol again for the 1 millionth time. And I tried to quit for a whole decade, Lesley. It was pathetic, really.
did you?
Well, it wasn't pathetic at the time, but and I just thought, if I knew that there were communities out there that I could have joined, and books that I could have read, and podcasts that I could have listened to, I would have probably done it in half the time.
Yeah,
Um, and I think, if you are struggling on your own, it's getting into a community, and it's really about education and just educating yourself around alcohol and what it does to you. And some people drag themselves through life feeling miserable, depressed, anxious, tired,
Yeah.
They've not got a great healthy lifestyle. They've got rubbish relationships because every time they build a relationship, maybe their alcohol, their drinking gets in the way and it messes things up. And people don't always make the connection
Yeah.
that actually, if you knocked, we call it the big domino down, the big domino of alcohol down, you may well find that things start to improve in your life. But often people don't make that connection. They don't.
Yeah. Yeah, because I suppose it's what I'm just thinking about is that the pain of change is worse than the pain feels worse than the pain of staying the same, and when it's flipped the
Mm,
other way around, the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of change. Then that's
yeah.
when people can make those changes and
Mm,
see that sort of positive outcome at the end. But I think for a lot of people, the change feels too big, feels
yeah.
too overwhelming to do. That I'll
Yeah.
stay here, I'll maybe minimise how much of a challenge it is, but then actually seeing you and walking that path and following, like being around other people that are maybe just one step ahead of them or that might have done something, and hearing that they didn't just automatically find it easy. So actually there's a comfort in hearing that somebody else has struggled. You said about like it seeming a bit like a bit silly or like a bit pathetic or something, that you kind of, oh, how did I struggle for so long? Well, actually somebody else will say, well, I've struggled for a long time and I'm gonna get there as
Yeah.
well. And
Yeah.
like a completely different kind of parallel is I passed my driving test on the fifth test. So a lot of people would say to me things like, oh, not everyone passes on the first test, and I'm going, this is my fifth one. And it's the
My
similar
mum
sort of
was
thing.
9. My mum took
Yeah,
9 times.
exactly. This is the
Yeah.
thing that actually, rather than kind of thinking, oh, I should be further on in my life now. I should have achieved this, that, and the other. Being being at peace where you are and being able to um, appreciate how far you've come. So if we were to look back at our lives, like just in a snapshot, we can forget like how much we've actually achieved. But if we were to lean into it sort of from from our hearts rather than our head, we can actually kind of go, well, wow, I've done so much, or and I've been there, and like you said about like in your experience, God's always been there, even when you didn't realize that He was there,
Mm, mm.
and actually having that recognition and that, yeah, it's giving me sort of a gratitude sense of experience.
Yeah, yeah, a lot. Yeah, a lot to be grateful for. Yeah, there's a book, I can't remember what it's called, but it talks about the gap, and it talks about we often are so busy looking forward that we don't actually look where we've come from, and we're always striving to be better, which I think is it's our human nature, isn't it, to just want to do better. But sometimes we forget, and we want to stop and just look back at
Yeah,
what's gone what's behind us and how much we've achieved. And yeah, I think being grateful is really important. I've got a little thing at the side of my bed. It's just stuck on a pot of cream. It's just a sticky label. What 3 things are you grateful for today? And I always try, and I obviously say my prayers and thank God for looking after me and you know um, what He's given me in my life. But I also think about small things like
yeah.
my little grandson smiling at me yesterday. It was a beautiful smile. He's only 8 weeks old, and I'm just really
Oh,
excited to get to know him, and just grateful for picking a cucumber from my little polytunnel, and just simple things. But
yeah.
it's like you said, it's a journey. But I think you've got to look back and be. There's something in everybody's life that's been good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary. I was thinking when
Yeah.
you said about the
Totally.
courgette.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. I mean, I won't even get on mindset because we've been on long enough. But
Yeah.
just your thought patterns and your mindset, it's just massive, really.
Yeah.
You can change so much about your life by just your thoughts. And I said renewing of your mind in Romans in the Bible. so many scriptures about changing your mindset and thinking. And if we think we can't, we can't. And I think if you're drinking and you've tried so many times like I did, and you think I just can't do it, then maybe it's time to just invest in yourself, because it can be expensive. Counsellors, coaches can charge minimal right up to hundreds of pounds for an hour. But the thing is, if you can get topside of your drinking habit, it's a big domino, as I said, that goes down, and then it opens up a whole new world of feeling so much better and excited about life again, instead of trying to chase the buzz all the time. Yeah.
So many possibilities, isn't there? And
Yeah.
like you said about mindset, but one of the things that really stands out from what you've been saying all the way through is having that self-awareness and having that kind of, and that, like, I talk a lot about growth mindset, and sometimes I've known growth mindset, the idea of growth mindset, to feel really stressful for somebody, because they might feel that there's pressure to actually do more all the time, whereas that possibility of something being a bit different, not necessarily about productivity or achievement, but just having that growth mindset that you can change, that you can transform, and you can like make those shifts and those things through by being aware of yourself.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
how might people find you if they're wanting to ask you more questions or anything like that, or wanting to work with you? What would where are you in the main?
I'm on LinkedIn under Carol Urry. That's Carol, for people that are listening on audio, Urry. And I'm Carol Urry on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I don't have a website at the moment. I did have, but yeah, I just
Yeah.
all the business stuff. Sometimes it's just too much. Like you were talking about overwhelm, and I just think,
Yeah.
no. And sometimes I'll post on social, sometimes I take some time out. So I'm very sort of, I'm there. But if you want to DM me and you want to get in touch, then do. Or you can email me at hello@carolurry.com.
Fantastic. And we'll put all of that information in the description at the bottom of
Thank
this
you.
as well. So if whether you're watching or listening, wherever you're listening, you'll get that. And I think it's been lovely to talk with you, Carol. It feels
Lovely.
nice to be able to talk, just explore things in different ways, because I think sometimes people see maybe the extremes of drinking, overly drinking, and then completely not, and having like that path in between, and that what I'd often call the messy middle, that kind of working through, taking one step at a time. That sounds really nice to hear, and hearing your experiences as well. So before we go, is there anything else that you want to maybe say to everybody, or share?
What would I say? I would think there's one thing I always say to my clients when they're feeling ashamed: it's not your fault. And it isn't your fault. If you're struggling with drinking, it's an addictive substance. So it isn't your fault. It's just the way you've unconsciously wired your brain. Your brain is doing what it's supposed to do, is keep you safe, and it thinks it needs alcohol to keep you safe. So it's not your fault. So, if you are struggling, just seek some help, however that looks for you, whether that's traditionally AA, SMART, you know, recovery, or finding a coach, or just delve into some education podcasts and just get into some communities. Alcohol Explained is a brilliant book by William Porter, and he's got a fantastic community as well, so online. So Alcohol Explained, William Porter too.
Yeah, and you've got the Previously Pickled Society as well, which I think
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah.
really healing.
And This Naked Mind. This Naked Mind was where it all started for me with Annie Grace, who's amazing. And I did my training through This Naked Mind Institute. So again, that's another great book to get. This Naked Mind by Annie Grace. Thanks,
Okay,
Lesley.
brilliant. Thank you so much, Carol. And
Welcome.
Yeah, really lovely to talk to you. And thank you everyone for listening to this episode of A New Pace podcast. And let us know if you have any questions or any sort of insights that you've gained from this. So, and speak to you soon. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.